Okay, today I wanted to test out some new makeup launches. I'm excited because I feel like I'm going to have some really good hits. At least I hope so. I haven't placed a big Sephora order in a little while. A lot of my videos in August were very focused on drugstore makeup, and I did test out a lot of drugstore launches, but there were some higher end launches that caught my eye recently. So I did grab the new Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation and Primer. I can't wait to try this out because I've been seeing really good reviews overall, and this just sounds like my ideal type of foundation. So I hope that's going to be a hit for me. I also picked up the new Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette. I haven't tried this out yet because I wanted to try it on camera for the first time, but I do think this is going to be a lot of fun for fall. I did pick up the Makeup by Mario setting powder. I don't know if I'll use this today, and I also grabbed the One Size primer. I'm trying to decide because I have like products in these categories I already want to try, or I might use the Huda Beauty powder. We'll see. I might do like side by sides, but I'll come back in a few weeks and update you on everything once I've had the chance to really thoroughly test out these products, wear them multiple times. Today, I thought of instead of doing like a typical haul video, we could just hang out and apply the products and see how it goes. Okay, so I wanted to try out this product from Ole Henriksen. I had to double check on how to pronounce that brand name because I used to use this brand all the time. I loved their Banana Bright eye cream so much, and I haven't purchased it for a few years, but I read a few comments online where people were saying this product is actually better than the Summer Fridays lip balms, which I love. I don't think it's quite the same type of product. Like the Summer Fridays lip balm to me is just a typical standard lip balm, whereas this is actually called the Pout Preserve Peptide Lip Treatment. So you're supposed to be able to use it as an actual lip treatment. So in my mind, that means it's supposed to be a little bit more intense, more nourishing, more hydrating. This is the original, but they also have strawberry, cocoa cream, and then also creme brulee. So, oh, okay. This one kind of has like a little bit of a citrus scent. So the applicator is nice. It's not quite as flexible as the Summer Fridays applicator, but it feels very similar to that. It's just slightly more stiff, but I like it a lot better than the Tower 28 applicator. That's like my other favorite lip balm. The actual lip product feels nice. It's definitely a little bit thicker than Summer Fridays. It feels like a true lip treatment. So I'm curious to use this overnight to see how my lips feel in the morning, especially with fall right around the corner. I'm sure I'm going to be dealing with chapped lips and I could use something a little bit more intense. Okay, so I did pick up the One Size Oil Sucker Primer. This is supposed to be an extremely mattifying primer. In fact, I've seen a couple of people who have dry skin apply this product and they absolutely hate it, which leads me to believe that I will actually love this product. My skin has been so oily, especially near the end of the summertime. We're heading into fall, so I feel like my skin will kind of switch and go back to combo, but I never really know what it's going to do. I definitely want to test this out, but I don't know if I'll use it today because I did buy the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer. I don't always buy the primer that brands launch with a foundation, but again, I've been hearing such good things about this. I just thought I would try it out. It sounds a little bit different than I initially thought it was going to be. Some people say it's smoothing, but also gripping, which sounds perfect. So I think I might use this on one side of my face and then use one of my like staple go-to smoothing primers on the other side, just so I can compare. So I think that's what I'll do today. It says on the box that it gives a lightweight, soft, focused effect. I know people on TikTok are kind of complaining about the packaging, saying it's really cheap, and they're comparing it to more like luxury brands. Okay, here's what it looks like. It's kind of pink toned and it has a little bit of like a gel like texture to it. Oh, but it's also thicker. Okay, this has a cooling effect on the skin, just a little bit. It's not too intense. I'm mainly going to focus this like right where I deal with large pores and then also texture as well, which for me is like my cheek. But people on TikTok are complaining about this, saying like the packaging is really cheap. It looks like Wet n Wild. Honestly, I prefer this type of packaging. I think the foundation is also plastic packaging, especially when I'm traveling because it's lighter. It's less likely to break. I feel like you're actually able to squeeze the product out a little bit better. And I don't know, I don't consider Huda Beauty to be like a luxury brand. I feel like people were comparing the Huda Beauty foundation packaging to the new Patrick Ta packaging. Patrick Ta to me is more of an expensive brand than Huda Beauty. Personally, I don't care that much about packaging. As long as it's functional and it's not going to break, I'm good to go. I feel like it leaves my skin looking matte, but it doesn't like suck all the life out of my skin like I assume the Oil Sucker Primer is going to do from One Size. So far so good. Obviously, we'll see how foundation applies and wears on top. On the other side, I'm just going to use the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. This is one of my favorites. It's very smoothing. It's obviously a lot thinner. You can kind of see as I work it into the skin. This has been my go-to ever since they launched it because it does really smooth out the texture on my skin. And even though this doesn't have like a gripping texture to it, I do find that it extends the wear of my makeup as well. So that might be the same case with the Huda Beauty one. They definitely feel different. Huda Beauty feels a little bit more velvety, whereas this one, I mean, it's smoothing, but it definitely dries down, in my opinion, to feel a little bit more matte. As for foundation, I spent so long trying to match myself online, so I really hope this works. I went with the shade Shortbread 200B. I do have a little bit of a tan right now, but that is going to fade super quickly, so I probably went maybe slightly lighter. Anyway, here's what the bottle looks like. I mean, yeah, it's a plastic bottle. It reminds me of the Fenty eavesdrops now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't hear anyone complain about that. It looks smaller compared to like those luxurious glass bottles, but you do get the standard 1 ounce. So I don't know. Anyway, let me just swatch this shade. Oh, I think it's going to work. It might be just slightly light, but I always prefer to go slightly lighter. It does feel very thin, very, very lightweight, which I love. I know I've said this before, but if you're new to my channel, you might not know. I used to love the most intense full coverage foundations back in the day. Like the Urban Decay All Nighter was my absolute favorite. I would apply that. I would apply a full coverage concealer, and then I would go in with powder foundation. So I am no stranger to fuller coverage products, but I feel like they've come such a long way because even though I swore my makeup did not look cakey back then, it had to have. And foundations back then were just thicker overall, especially more mattifying full coverage foundations. Now it's so nice to be able to get a thinner formula that still has great coverage. This is melting into the skin perfectly. Now this is the side with the Huda Beauty primer. It looks very, very smooth. I actually do feel like this shade match is going to be perfect for me. I have a lot of redness. I have a lot of freckles, which, you know, sometimes I like to let the freckles show through. Sometimes I like more of a full coverage look. It kind of depends, but the redness for me is what I do typically like to cover up, or any like acne scarring, which I have had some breakouts recently. So here's just like a light layer on this side of my face. It looks great so far. Definitely going on nicely on this side too, but I do think there's a difference. Like the Huda Beauty primer created more of a silky, smooth canvas. So I feel like I would probably need a little bit less product on the side with the Huda Beauty primer. And it truly just like melted into the skin in a very natural way. The only thing is, hopefully it will hold up on my skin too, because sometimes with those slippery primers, it ends up melting off faster. Okay, so here's a fairly light layer of the foundation. It definitely erased the redness. I feel like my skin does look very smooth. I have some breakouts on my chin, and I feel like there is still some redness. Like I probably would like a little bit more coverage in that area. So I'm curious to know if I can build this and how it will look when I build it up a little bit, mainly on my cheeks and my chin, and just kind of lightly build it up just a little bit. I will list all of the brushes I'm using in the description box below. I actually need to wash a lot of my brushes though, so I might be using kind of a random assortment today. Okay, that builds beautifully. This looks so good on the skin. It really, really does. Okay, I am really, really happy with the way the foundation looks. Honestly, now that I'm looking at it side by side, I don't know if I see a big difference on the side where I used the Huda Beauty primer versus the e.l.f. primer. Maybe, like this side maybe looks a little bit extra smooth. Again, I'm just curious to see how it's actually going to hold up throughout the day. So we will see. For concealer, I'm just going to use a tried and true favorite. This one is from Tower 28. It is just their serum concealer. I have the shade DTLA. Actually, before I blend that out, I'm just going to let it set for a second and apply my cream bronzer. This is from LYS Beauty. I have the shade Hope, and I'm just going to use my favorite brush from e.l.f. This is the Complexion Duo brush, and it's perfect for cream bronzer or cream blush, but it's also actually really nice for foundation and concealer too. I used to I guess not be opposed to dual-ended brushes, but they're not always my favorite because they are a little bit more difficult to store. Like if you're using both ends, you don't always want to just like stick it in a cup, but honestly, I've kind of gotten over it because a good dual-ended brush is just so convenient, especially if you're traveling. Cuts down on the brushes you need. If you're using this for like foundation and concealer, you can use both sides. For bronzer, you can use the other side to contour. I have a little bit too much on this side, but what's nice about this bronzer is it's so effortless. So if you do apply too much, Like, you don't have to be careful with it. I always just kind of go in with it haphazardly, and then I literally just take my foundation brush, go over the edges, and it ends up looking very seamless in the end. Then I'm just going to take the Sigma Soft Blend Concealer brush and blend this out. Okay, so for powder, I'm going to do Huda Beauty on the side where I used the Huda Beauty primer, just so I can do like the full primer powder foundation from the brand. And then on the other side, I think I'm going to test out that new Makeup by Mario powder. Okay, same thing on the other side. I'll probably cut this part out just to save a little bit of time. Before I go in with powder, I'm just going to take a little bit of bronzer on the sides of my nose. And then just go over it with the concealer brush. I swear I read online they were redoing the Huda Beauty packaging for the powder. I still have the old one. I didn't see the new one online, so maybe that's coming later on. I have the shade Pound Cake, which is, I think, one of the lightest shades. So I'm just using like this triangular puff, pressing the extra in, and then just setting the center of my face for now, like mainly the concealer and then my T-zone. I love this powder. It's one of my absolute favorites. Is this the right side? Yeah, this is the right side with the Huda Beauty primer too. It leaves your skin looking incredibly smooth. And my main concern when it comes to complexion products, like I want the most smoothing products because of texture, because of breakouts. So this looks good. Like, look how good my skin looks. That foundation, that primer, this powder all together. Oh my gosh, it really does look so good. I feel like as long as it holds up throughout the day, I might have found my new perfect combo. And I don't normally watch like a ton of reviews before I film. Like I want to try and experience the products myself. I'm a little bit late to the game on some of these products just because we were out of town. So they were kind of popping up for me mainly on TikTok. And I just feel like everyone was raving about them. That looks so good. You guys, look how smooth my skin looks. I'm really not even trying to be dramatic or overhype this product because what does it matter? If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me, but I swear it looks really, really good. So now I'm just taking a fluffy brush and just lightly setting the outside of my face. The Makeup by Mario powder is called the Surreal Skin Soft Blur Setting Powder. I actually want to read about this online. Okay, so this one comes in 7 different shades. I have the shade 2 Neutral Light. It is a talc-free loose powder that sets makeup for up to 12 hours. It's also supposed to blur and smooth the complexion with a natural finish and all-day shine control. Oh, this one feels very smooth. Okay, wow. This definitely looks blurring as well. Oh my gosh, is that one even more blurring? This one definitely feels lighter than the Huda Beauty powder. I've said this before, the Huda Beauty powder, sometimes it can look a little bit cakey. Like if you use too much of it or you're using like a very heavy foundation underneath, I feel like it can look just a little bit cakey. This one is incredibly light. Look how good that looks. I just had a feeling today was going to be a good makeup day. The only thing that I'm thinking about this powder is because it is so light, like it definitely feels lighter than the Huda Beauty one. I don't know if it's going to lock my makeup into place as well. Sometimes with like a very light, very airy setting powder, I tend to get oily faster. Let me just run through the brows very, very quickly. So I'm just going to start with the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel just to fill them in, hold them into place. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen to fill them in a little bit more, but we won't spend too much time on that. I cannot wait to apply this product on camera. I did take it out of the box earlier, but I haven't actually swatched it or anything. So this is the new Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette. Here's what the packaging looks like. Really, really gorgeous. And then here's what the shades look like. I definitely like a good warm toned eyeshadow palette, but so many warm toned palettes are a little bit too intense for me. This still has like your orangey tones, your red tones, but it's less intense. I'm going to start with the shade Mellow as a transition and then take a little bit of this color. I'm not sure how light this is going to be on my skin tone. It looks a little dark to be a brow bone highlight for my skin tone, so I think it could actually work as more of a subtle transition color. I mean, it's pretty close to my skin tone, maybe just like a shade darker. So again, probably won't use that as like an actual brow bone highlight, maybe to kind of blend out some of the shades, but I feel like that's a good starting point. I'm going to do this eye off camera just to save some time. I'm just going to go in with that shade Ripe right on top. Yeah, this is perfect. And blend that in the crease. Oh, okay, that has a little bit more pigment than I thought. And it is very smooth. Honestly, I feel like her matte shadows get better with every single palette I try. I think I applied just a little bit too much of that to my brush. Even though it's a lighter shade, it still has good pigment to it. So where's my concealer brush? I'm just going to have to go in and kind of clean up this inner corner. I might actually just wait until I'm done. But this shade is really pretty. And this is what I'm talking about. When I want like a warm eyeshadow look, this is perfect because it is warm toned, but it's not so over the top that you look like you have a full-on orange eyeshadow look. Although, since I'm trying this out today for the first time, I might build this look up a little bit more than I normally would for like an easy everyday look. Let's just keep going. I'm going to take the shade Fervor and then maybe a little bit of the shade Vim. We'll start with Fervor and just kind of work that into the crease just to darken things up a little bit. The only thing I will say about this palette is if you do want like a lot of variation, a lot of depth to your look, this might not be the most ideal. I see a couple of darker browns in here, but it's kind of the same case with the I Need a Nude palette. I almost wish that one had like 1 or 2 additional deeper shades. I know it has one cooler dark brown. Overall, this palette has like a lot of lighter shades, some medium tone shades, but not necessarily a ton of super deep shades. I'm just going back in with that initial shade Mellow to kind of blend out the crease. I am going to go in with Vim, but I think I'll take it on like more of a precise brush to add some dark brown in the outer corner. But yeah, these are applying perfectly, no issues at all. I'm just going to focus this right in the outer corner just to kind of darken things up before I go in with a shimmer or metallic. I feel like those are the standout shades with this palette. For me, that's always the standout with my Natasha Denona palettes. Her mattes are good, but it's definitely the metallics, the glittery tones that really do it for me. Okay, this shade is looking a little bit patchy. Like you can tell both sides, the outer corner, it just doesn't have that like smooth, even blend. So I don't know what's going on. That doesn't typically happen. It feels very creamy, very smooth, but if I stamp it, it's fine. But then I go to blend it in a little bit, and that's when it starts to look patchy. So I don't usually experience that with Natasha Denona, so just wanted to point that out. Every time I go in to fix it, I feel like it looks a little bit worse. So I feel like I'm just going to leave it for now because I don't think you'll be able to see it once I go in with the shimmers. So I think I'm going to take this shade right here, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of this one. This first shade is called Push. Ooh, okay, so this feels like a foiled metallic shadow. That is really gorgeous. This to me is like the perfect fall shadow. It definitely feels a little bit different than some of her other metallic shadows. And I'm not sure how the camera is I'm not sure if the camera is picking up just how intense it is, but it is gorgeous. That's going to obviously just kind of smooth right over that patchiness, which is why I don't usually worry too much about the outer corner shade, but I still think that's worth noting that that shade is one that went on a little bit patchy. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of that shade Snug just to kind of brighten it up even more. Yeah, and again, I like that the eye look is not so overly warm toned. Like it's definitely a warmer look, but this is the type of look I tend to go for a little bit more these days rather than something even more rich and intense. Honestly, like day to day, I'd probably skip that darker brown in the outer corner too. Just because it's my first time using it, I wanted to use a few more shadows than I might normally. I just realized I knocked my microphone over. I really hope it wasn't like that for a long time, or you probably have no idea what I was saying. So I'm just going to take the two, let me show you again because I don't know if it recorded it, these two shades right here and kind of go back and forth for the lower lash line just to kind of tie things together. Okay, so I do have this pencil from Milk Makeup. It's not new, but I personally haven't tried it. It's their Longwear eyeliner in the shade Outer Space. I am always on the hunt for the perfect black pencil liner, not for my upper lash line or my waterline, but to tightline. And I have a couple that I like, but I noticed the issue is a lot of eyeliners end up transferring on my waterline, and I don't really like the look of black liner on my waterline. but I do like to tightline because I think it makes a difference. Like it makes the base of your lashes look thicker and fuller. And sometimes if I'm doing liquid liner, I feel like it just kind of connects everything. Like if I'm just doing liquid liner and I don't tightline, sometimes it looks like there's gaps there. I don't know. It's one of those things that doesn't seem like it would make a big difference, but it does. I like how thin this one is. Like it really fits that area perfectly. Sometimes with a traditional pencil liner, it's a little bit too thick. And then once it's not sharpened, I feel like I poke myself in the eye. So I think I like this one. Oh, there's a little sharpener on the bottom too. But I mean, the main thing for me is whether or not it transfers onto the waterline. I feel like it is transferring a little bit already. We'll see. I'm just going to quickly line my upper lash line as well. This one is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes Liquid Eyeliner in black. I'm going to speed through this because I can't usually do this and talk at the same time. Okay, for mascara, I'm just going to use the Tower 28 Make Waves, which is my favorite. I should have repurchased this when I was placing an order because I think I stocked up on this during a sale, or I had like a couple of backups while I could get it for a discounted price, and I'm on my last one. It is almost dried out, but I feel like this mascara is good until the last drop. Like that's what I love about this one. I like it directly, like as soon as I open it, but I also like it when it's pretty much dried out too. Okay, a few things while I apply a little bit of an inner corner highlight. So I was just looking over my footage really quickly. I'm using the shade Elm to make sure that I didn't have, ooh, really, really pretty as an inner corner highlight. I love this one. So anyway, I was importing my footage because I've been having some technical difficulties. I wanted to make sure everything looked good. This side of my face, which side? This side with the Huda Beauty products really does look smooth. Like you can see a difference, and I could see it on my computer as I was importing the footage. I have a lot of texture over here, and I do have some texture on this side of my face, which is why I applied all of the Huda Beauty products over here. But overall, I feel like this side looks extra smooth. So I'm curious to wear that Makeup by Mario powder with some of my go-to products to see how that works. But I really think the Huda Beauty primer made a big difference. I did apply a little bit of concealer and powder to that freckle in the center of my nose, which is what I typically do if I'm going for like a full coverage look. Now I'm going to go in and apply bronzer, blush, highlighter, and a lip product. Oh, for the eyes, I did add a little bit of this ColourPop cream gel liner in the shade Honey Dude, just to kind of brighten things up. I'm just going to use my go-to from e.l.f. This is the Primer Infused Bronzer, and I have the shade Tan O'Clock, and I love this e.l.f. bronzer brush. It's the Flawless Face Brush. So I actually prefer to kind of stipple this on, but what I love about this bronzer is it is so smoothing. I don't know, like ever since I used this one again for the first time a few months ago, whenever I go in with any other powder bronzer, it immediately looks patchy. Even some of my other go-to formulas, like this is the best one out there. I have been enjoying the Makeup by Mario powder bronzer, but I just prefer e.l.f. and it's like $6. It just looks good. I feel like the shade is perfect. The formula is perfect. Everything about it, I just can't get enough of it. So I usually just go in with a small amount of that just to add like a little bit more warmth to the skin. This is the Fenty Cheeks Suede Powder Blush, and I have the shade Bakin Cakes. So honestly, I wasn't going to buy this initially. I think I talked about it in a purchase or pass video, and Fenty launched a couple of new products. Here's what it looks like. It's a little bit darker in person than it looks online. Oh my gosh. Okay, it feels so smooth. That's like a very light layer. That's what I'm going to go for today. This color really appealed to me. Although I do think, like I said, it looks a little bit different in person than it did online. It just kind of strikes me as like the perfect fall color. So I think when I talked about this, I saw a few comments saying that it was like a very smooth, gorgeous formula. Really, really pretty. That's just like a very light layer. I'm not usually a fan of like a very intense blushed look, but I feel like you could build this up if you want to. That looks so good on the skin. I feel like this is going to complement my fall looks really well. I was just kind of wanting a little bit of a different shade for fall. I have a lot of blush, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel like I like to have a good go-to formula that looks amazing on the skin that I know won't let me down in a shade that could go with like all of my looks that season. I might take a little bit of highlighter. This is just from Rare Beauty. This one is Flaunt, and just like a very small amount on the cheeks. Okay, so let me take off this lip treatment. That has lasted really, really well. I know it's only been I don't even know how long it's been. It's been longer than this video is because I obviously cut out like blending and things like that. But normally by the time I'm done doing my makeup, whatever lip treatment or lip balm I apply has completely worn off. And this is still on there. My lips definitely feel very moisturized, very soft, like ready to go. So for lips, what do I want to do? I have a couple of other products I've been wanting to try. This is the One Size Lip Snatcher Precision Lip Filler Pencil in the shade Rent Dew. I did get this in the mail as PR a while ago, but since I had it, I thought I would try it out. Well, what does this shade look like? It might be a little bit deeper than let's apply a little bit of it. Okay, I actually do really like this color. I just applied it lightly and then kind of blended it in for more of a diffused look. This formula reminds me a little bit of Charlotte Tilbury in that it's very creamy, but there's like still a little bit of a tug to it. It doesn't feel like it's going to dry down and be super matte on the lips, but it's kind of like a workable formula if you want to use it as like an all over lip color. So for the lips, I've had this for a little while. I just haven't used it yet. It's the Fenty Beauty Lip Oil in the shade Frosted Buns. It's their Gloss Bomb Lip Oil. I've been wanting to try this, and when I first got it in the mail, I was like, I don't know if that's going to be my most, oh, the applicator is different than the original Gloss Bombs. I was like, I don't know if that will be my most ideal shade, but I mean, I feel like it will go perfect for fall. Okay, so let's apply it. Oh, it smells good. This isn't what the original Gloss Bomb smell like. This reminds me of Disney World. Like that's the first thing I thought of. When you go into Magic Kingdom and you're like walking down Main Street, and I swear there's like a sweet vanilla waffle scent. I think there's like an ice cream store or something like that. That's what this smells like. This doesn't feel extremely different than the original Gloss Bomb lip gloss. I feel like it has that smooth, slippery, glossy feel and look to it, but it doesn't feel too thin. I don't like a lip oil that is so incredibly oily that it just wears off in 2 seconds. This one does kind of feel like a good in between a gloss and an oil. It smells so good. And I do like this shade. When I got it in the mail, I was like, I don't know if that's going to look great on me, but I feel like everything ties together really well. Okay, I swear I said in the beginning of the video, before I even started, that I just knew I was going to have some hits. And I definitely think that's the case. I love the way the makeup came together in the end. Everything coordinates so well together. So I feel like I picked some really good shades for the fall season. Honestly, the foundation match is a perfect match. And I am so happy with that because it's the worst when you pick the wrong shade. Obviously, you can go in and exchange it, but it is more ideal to be able to purchase the correct shade from the beginning. So I am a big fan of this primer. I'm curious to try it out with a few of my other go-to foundations to see what's really creating that smooth blurred effect on this side of my face, whether it is the foundation or the primer or a combo of the both. And I'll know that for sure once I test this separately. But this foundation looks so good on my skin. I love the finish. I love that it feels very weightless. It doesn't look heavy or makeup-y, and it gives my skin like a true smooth finish. So if you are acne prone, if you have scarring or texture or large pores like me, I have all of those, all 4 of those, then this could be a really good option if you want like a very smooth look. We'll see how it wears throughout the day. But honestly, normally by this point of the day, like of doing my makeup on camera, I'm already looking pretty oily, and that is not the case. It looks good. Like it's not a flat matte. It looks amazing. So I'm really impressed by this too. As far as the powder goes, I will say like when I look up close in the mirror, I do think the side where I have the e.l.f. primer and the Makeup by Mario powder, you can see my pores a little bit more and the texture on my skin. So again, I can't know for sure if it's one of those products or a combo. The Makeup by Mario powder is very blurring, very smoothing, but it's also very lightweight, pretty airy. So I think if you have oily skin or you like more of a long wearing product, it might not be quite as ideal as Huda Beauty, but if you just want like a very lightweight, barely bare type of powder to set your skin and give you like a gorgeous smooth finish, that's when it might come in handy. I'll update you in a few weeks once I test it out a little bit more, just so I can kind of see how it performs with a lot of products. I love this blush so much. I know I just applied a very small amount of it, but if you're like me and you don't like super intense blush, but you do like a little bit of color, this could be a good option. It's very smoothing on the skin. And again, I did have a more smooth base underneath, so I'll keep testing it out, but so far so good. I feel like when it comes to blush, I know immediately if I like it or not. And I just think the shade of this is really pretty. Like I have a good amount of rosy nude blushes in my collection, but nothing quite like this one. So I'm excited about this. The palette, I do like it. I will say I experienced a little bit of patchiness with that brown shade. I really have to play around with this more. Like I want to use this every single day this week, next week before I do like a full review on it. The shimmers, the metallics, those did not let me down at all. The matte shadows are nice. If you're buying it strictly because of the mattes, you could definitely easily duplicate those with other formulas or other palettes in your collection. Give me a little bit more time to play around with this. I don't think the quality overall is going to be disappointing because that rarely happens for me with Natasha Denona palettes. It just comes down to whether or not you feel like this is going to add to your collection. Definitely impressed by this product. I can't wait to keep using it a little bit more. I get what people are saying. It's definitely not the same type of product as the Summer Fridays lip balm. Like I feel like they are very different products. This feels like a true lip treatment, but you could also throw this in your bag on the go and reapply it throughout the day. And you're not going to have to reapply it often because it is a little bit thicker and longer lasting. I feel like the benefits as well are pretty long lasting. Again, just my initial thoughts on it, but I'll update you soon. The eyeliner, we'll see if it actually stays in place well. It's not transferring onto the nude once it dried down, so that's promising. And then lip liner, really pretty color. We'll see. I don't know if this is going to be the type of lip liner that actually locks your lipstick into place, but if you want like that smooth, moisturized, creamy, if you want a smooth and creamy lip liner pencil that leaves your lips feeling moisturized and kind of gives the appearance of like a fuller look without drying down to a complete matte finish, I feel like that's when this will come in handy. Lip oil, really beautiful. The Fenty Gloss Bombs are like one of my absolute favorite formulas. This feels very, very similar, just a little bit thinner, more in the lip oil direction. So wow, what a good makeup application experience. There really wasn't even a product that let me down in today's video, which is amazing. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Stay tuned. I'll come back in a week or two and update you on everything and share some full reviews on these products as well as some other things I've been using off camera. But thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an amazing fall season. It's not quite fall yet, but yesterday we had like a 60-degree day and it just felt like fall and I'm all for it. So I cannot wait. The year is flying by. Before we know it, it will be the holiday season, but let's just enjoy fall first. So I'll see you guys very soon with a new one. Bye.